Greetings everyone. This video's 4 letters that can change your life. What a provocative title. But I really believe this information that I'm going to provide you today will be beneficial to you. Some of you in the therapy field may be already using some of it, same with coaching, but I really believe if you can take this basic, simple information that I'm going to share with you today, it can make a difference in your sessions with your clients and in your own life. It has helped me immensely, and I'd love to share it with you today. To my channel, I am Paul J. Leslie. I'm an international teacher, author, transformational strategist, psychotherapist, coach. Do a lot of things. I really focus on trying to help people in the healing professions try to be better at what they're doing in their sessions, whether you're a therapist, a coach, a hypnotherapist, alternative healer. I'm just here to be of service, and hopefully you'll get something out of today's video. I want to start by acknowledging, as I often really try to do, the shoulders of the giants I stand on. So Wobelding and Glasser are two people that are very important. Dr. Robert Wobelding is a psychologist and the person who's kind of helped really format these 4 letters we're going to learn about. He's a wonderful guy. He and I presented a lot of times at the same conferences, the Ericksonian conferences, brief therapy conferences, and he has a lot of really great information on reality therapy and choice theory. And he's standing beside Dr. Glasser, who is the originator of reality therapy and choice theory. So these two gentlemen have given us a lot of great information that it really helps kind of streamline therapeutic interaction, coaching interaction, however you want to view this. And it's all based a lot on basically what's the simple, most effective way to help people change their lives. Now, Dr. Glasser was, I think he was a psychiatrist, and he also went back and got a work in social work and those kind of things. And he found that the bulk of the cases he worked on didn't really need in-depth psychotherapy or medication. They just needed a plan that fit their values where they wanted to go. So he really focused on this idea that a way for us to have true ownership and healing in our life was it's based on choice, the choices we make, the conscious choices we make. And that came down to this idea of choice theory. So choice theory is essentially the idea that our behavior is motivated and purposeful, and it comes from within, but every action we take is really an attempt to satisfy these 5 basic driven needs that we all have as humans. The first is survival. We got to make sure that we have enough food to eat, shelter, safety, security, all those kind of things, because much like we saw in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if we don't have those, then nothing else matters. So we have to have those. Next is love and belonging, to where we have these meaningful connections and interactions with family, community, our partners. It's so important that we have those kind of things. Power and achievement is our next driven human need. It's a sense of being worth something, accomplishing, feeling competent in at least one area of our lives. And then there's freedom and independence. So having that autonomy, that personal space, that ability to go do the things that we want to do and can do. And then finally, fun and enjoyment, experiencing relaxation, satisfaction, pleasure. A lot of people kind of look down on fun and enjoyment as a need, but it really is. If you've got your survival and independence and power and love, you do need fun. And people who work all the time and aren't getting anything out of it, there's no fun, no relaxation, they tend to have problems. So Glasser felt that our psychological distress and unhappiness is a result of where we have one or more of these needs are not getting met. So if we are having issues with our survival, our achievement, our enjoyment, a lot of times we'll act out or we'll choose behaviors that essentially defeat us, our self-defeating behaviors, and we're trying to fulfill them. So for example, Someone who has a low sense of worth, the way that their self-defeating behavior is to put other people down and to find fault with others because it kind of feels erroneously that they're building themselves up. But it's not working, but yet they'll continue to do it. Somebody who wants love and belonging and is not getting that connection. A lot of times that they're trying to control situations, force people to do certain things, and they're doing certain behaviors that's actually, they're trying to get a behavior, but it's keeping them from getting a behavior. So it's really a simple, easy thing to look at. As into, what needs do I have? Now, Glasser was coming about this in the 70s and 80s, so this is a really, he was ahead of the game as far as I'm considering looking at things. He was really seeing that if we don't get these needs met, we end up just basically engaging in psychological self-sabotage. So whatever you're having an issue in, whatever area, maybe stepping back and looking at, one or all these needs and say, where am I getting this? Where am I deficit? And, how's that affecting things? So that gives us an idea of kind of choice theory. What choices are we making to achieve these genetically driven human needs is really the idea. And so what happens is that we create these mental pictures of how we want to satisfy our needs. But we have a lot of problems when reality doesn't match these internal pictures we have. If I want to see myself as getting a lot of critical acclaim and people approving of me and saying nice things and holding me up to this wonderful position of power and authority, and nobody likes me, or people putting me down, or what I'm doing isn't being well received, that's when one can get upset, can get angry, kind of feel the world's against them, all those kind of things. And what Wobbelding and Glasser is often saying is, well, you have to separate what your current reality is from what you think your current reality should be, because something's not happening either in the way you're interacting in certain situations, the way your actions overall doing, or sometimes just your expectations. Sometimes the world is going to be what the world is, and if we're trying to impose ourselves on the world and it's just not real true reality of how things are, we're oftentimes upset, depressed, anxious, etc. After all of that, it comes down to choice theory and reality therapy is about when people change their actions and thinking, their physiology and feelings change. Your emotions and your body somatically change when your actions and thinking change. Now, this is so important to me because I'm very action oriented. I have found that if you start the action, your thinking catches up. Other people, they start at the level of thinking and try to get people to think differently, so then they'll act differently. I find this a little limiting. It's not always a bad thing, and I think thinking definitely needs to be set down and determine if that's working for you, what your beliefs are about a situation. Very important, but I'm action oriented. So if we can get our thinking and our action going, it definitely can shift our emotions, our body, and then essentially our lives. So with all that talk, what are those 4 letters that can change your life? Well, without further ado, WDEP. Now, WDEP sounds like a AM radio station in the United States Midwest, and I get that. But it's an acronym that stands for 4 important words and ideas that help direct our life or help us direct our life where we want to go. So essentially, it stands for wants, doing, evaluation, and planning. So wants, doing, evaluation, and planning. So when we break each of these down, and we'll go through each of them fairly quickly here and give some examples, we find that this is a very simple, easy thing to understand. For a lot of people, it might not be so simple and easy to implement. But this also requires a lot of honesty, emotional honesty with ourselves. When you're honest, completely 100% honest and responsible for yourself, you do this, it gives you good information that you can do a new idea about how you want to be. You can maybe cut off some time when you're trying to achieve your goals, things that maybe have stood in the way to you. So we're going to go through WDEP one at a time. So let's start with wants. So the first thing with WDEP is the wants. You got to identify what you truly want. So questions to ask: what do you want to achieve? What is it that you need or desire in your life? How do you want to feel or behave? Now, this is important because you need to identify what you truly want. And this is where I put in those 5 human needs, because one of the things you want, it's satisfying one of those needs. And is this for you or is this for someone else? Is this something that's really important for you that you really want, or is this what you think you want? This is where we got to stop and really be honest with ourselves. And if I say I really want to have a happy relationship, but the person you're with, you really are looking for the exit door and you don't find it very helpful to be in this relationship, then you have to decide, do I want a healthy relationship in what I presently am, or do I want to end this and find something else? So you have to be clear on what you want. I mean, most any therapy or coaching session is dependent upon what the client is wanting. So if your client wants to really feel happy, what's going on there? What does that mean? How is that related to one of those basic desires and drives? And how do they want to feel or behave instead when they come in and say, I'm depressed or I'm anxious? Well, what do you want instead? Get really clear on what that want is. In consulting, your executive says, I want to make more money. You got to also get clear. Well, number one, why do you want to make more money? Which, you think that would be obvious, but sometimes it's not. How much do you want to make? Are we talking, I can give you $1 and you've already made more money. But most executives want a little bit more than $1 if they're running a company. So it's again, we got to start here. Identify what you truly want. Then we need to examine what you're doing currently. So examine your current behaviors. This is the doing. WDEP, wants, doing. Question to ask: what are you doing right now to meet your needs? So one of those needs or more, what are you doing? What are your current actions helping you? Are they helping you achieve what you want? If you say you want a happy relationship, but you pick fights with your partner all the time, don't think that's really truly helping you achieve what you want. And what behavior patterns have you noticed in yourself? And one thing I've found working with clients for many years is that it's during this time they get real quickly, some of them, where right when we start to figure out on what they're doing, they'll want to switch it to what someone else is doing or what the world's doing or what the economy's doing. So we've got to bring it back to being honest. What are you doing? What's your part in this? Some people have a real issue with being honest with themselves. They have a lot of, what do we call it? Defense mechanisms, if we want to use that kind of psychodynamic terminology. But it's like they're so used to not being clear and honest with what it is that they're doing in the interaction that it sometimes clouds the whole situation going on. So we got to be clear on what's the person doing right now to meet those needs. Are their current actions helping achieve what's going, and what behavior patterns have they noticed in themselves? And then the E stands for evaluation. So this is whether your current behavior is working for you or not. Sounds like a Dr. Phil. How's that working for you? But that's essentially it. We're assessing whether what you're doing is effective in obtaining what you want. So a question to ask is what you're doing working. I want to have a peaceful relationship with my partner. And what are you doing? Well, go back. I'm arguing all the time and picking fights. Well, is that working? No. How does your current behavior make you feel? Well, when you pick those fights, how do you feel? What are the consequences of your actions? So every time you pick a fight, is that giving you what you want? Or is that going back to that unmet need of power and control? So you're trying to control someone else because you feel like you can't control yourself, or you have a lot of anxiety about your environment. So you're trying to do all these ineffective behaviors. So is what you're doing working? And again, we've got to be honest. We've got to have ourselves and our clients just be honest. No, it's not working, or yes, it is. So if it is working, well, there's really no reason to go any further. But if it's not working, we've got to be clear with how it's affecting us, how it's making us feel. Really need to get into it, because it's real easy for us to gloss over, oh no, it's not working, and then gloss over and jump to the last one. But we really need to get in and what are the emotional, cognitive, somatic drivers for this whole situation that we build up to. And last is planning, P. So this is where if it's not working, we've got to develop alternative behaviors that's going to align with our goals. Again, this is action oriented. What are we going to do? What can you do differently is one of the questions. What specific steps can you take to achieve your goals? Now, that's so important. It's got to be specific steps. We'll talk about how to create this plan in a second, but you got to get specific. So if going back to our situation of picking fights, I just got to stop picking fights. Okay, well, how specifically will you do that? Get to the most minute details that's going to take to achieve the goal. But also, what support or resources does the person need to follow through with the plan? So if you are wanting to change your economic status, you're going to need some support or some resources. So it may need to start with, well, go get one of those basic books on finance, investment, or those that's step one. And so really sitting down and figuring out what resources that you may need to go through your plan. It may need, if you're the one picking fights with your spouse, you may need to, you and your spouse do couples counseling for a few sessions so that they can be clear on what you're trying to do, and vice versa. So WDEP. Now, we get to the P, that's where Glasser and Wobbleding came up with this idea of a SAMIC framework, SAMIC. So this dictates how your plans must be. So it's got to be simple, attainable, measurable, immediate, and controlled by you. So simple is important because it's got to be clear. It's got to be easy to understand. It's got to be concise. It's got to be to the point. If you have to have more than one sentence for your goal, it's not good. So a lot of times people derail themselves when they try to make things too complex. Make it simple. And it's easy to understand, which helps with the next one. Is it realistic within your current abilities? Is it attainable? So if your simple goal is, I want to have $1 million, even though you have no money now, is it attainable, realistic within your current abilities? Well, tomorrow it's not attainable. If you have $10 and you want $1 million, it's not attainable. So maybe if you win the lottery or something, which is very rare, but maybe in 10 to 15 years, it's certainly attainable if you do your research, able to do the things that you need to do, and the economy's going as it should. So that needs to be kind of a realistic way to look at that simple, clear, and easy to understand goal. It needs to be measurable. It's got to be concrete enough that you know if it's accomplished. And also, how do you measure it in your mind? If you're picking fights, do you say, I'm picking fights every day, 7 days a week, and so your goal is to pick less fights? Well, how many? I'm going to only do 2 fights a week. I'm going to, to start with. Okay, well, that's something we can measure. As I said, economically, if I want to increase the profits in a company by 12% over the next 8-9 months, I can measure that. That's important. If it's coming up short, I'll know. If I'm doing more, making more money than that, I'll know. So it's something I can measure. And next one is immediate. So it's actionable today, or at least in the very near future. So going back to our specific steps, you have to start on it today. So if my goal is to go from $10 to $1 million, I need to go maybe today to the library and check out a book on finance, investment. I need to go start making calls to people. If I don't have a job, finding a job, talking to people who've done it and pick their brain and ask for that support and resources. So whatever it is, it's got to start today. Now, let me just say here for a second, those of you who work with clients, get them to do something today. even if it's a small thing. And I sometimes ask them, well, do this and then call my office back and let me know how it went. And that's a little bit of accountability, but it's just getting them started, because a lot of times that first step is the hardest. And as Lao Tzu said, journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. If you can just get them that first step. So, okay, well, go to the library, check out that book and read the first chapter, and call me and let me know what that's about. Okay, well, call that person that can help you set up a financial plan. And when you get done with that, call me and let me know how that went. So you're doing that accountability immediately. So within 24 to 48 hours, there's needing a lot of times to be some kind of action that's almost crucial in a lot of cases. And the last one of this framework is controlled by you. So this goal must rely entirely on you, not the cooperation of others. Certainly support and resources are important, but you got to be the one that's making the first step. You've got to take the initiative. You have to own you. If you pick a goal that totally it's dependent upon what someone else does or some other group of people or some kind of thing in the world, some nation, some countries does, then that's not something that you can control. And that's eventually going to fail anyway if your goal is to change your life, because it all comes down to you. It's totally 100% on you to at least make that action, start this process. So here's a couple of quick examples. I just want to give you, I always like to give you things that, kind of realistic and direct to the point. So I call this a burned out professional. A project manager feels constantly overwhelmed, burned, and she's working late every night. So she tells her coach, hey, I want things to be better. So the coach says, okay, well, what do you want? So she clarifies what she wants. Is that to feel more in control of her schedule, meet her deadlines by 5 o'clock, stop working overtime. So that's very clear, as in I want to be done by 5, no overtime, meeting deadlines, feeling more in control. So then the coach asks what the manager is currently doing, and she admits to reacting to every single email instantly, taking on last-minute tasks for other teams, and not keeping a set schedule. So at this point, we evaluate. Is answering every email instantly and saying yes to last-minute tasks helping her? Is it getting her home by 5? No. So the realization that these actions are actually driving her further away from the goal then gives us, okay, we have a plan we can devise to help her get there. And so they develop an immediate plan to which they will block out the first 2 hours of the manager's morning for deep, uninterrupted work and establish a system to delegate or schedule certain tasks later instead of dropping everything to do those tasks immediately. So in just really a few minutes, if your client's honest and willing to work, you can jump in there and immediately change things. So number 2 is the procrastinating student. Adam's struggling with dropping grades because he doesn't prioritize. He procrastinates on assignments, and he's spending too much time socializing. So Adam states he wants to pass his class, reduce his stress, and understand the material. Now, as a teacher, professor, I hear this a lot from students. And I do a lot of WDEP with a lot of students. Sometimes they don't like it, but they are coming to me for help, so that's part of the help. So he assesses what he's doing. He's spending 4 hours a day on social media, going to parties, and usually doing his work the night before it's due. So not doing a very good job. So if he's honest with himself, he sees what he's doing is not matching his wants, and that's where his evaluation comes in. Late night parties, social media is not helping me, and my stress is going up, so I need to change. This current approach is just failing me. So the plan is he, creates an actionable study plan. Instead of trying to overwhelm himself, I'll study 6 hours a day or 5 straight days in a row. He starts committing to micro steps, going to the library for just an hour immediately after class before looking at his phone. So again, that's something he can start today, an immediate step. And then our third one is the marital conflict. So this is a couple who argues constantly about household chores, and it causes them over time to feel very resentful and distant from one another. And this is not an uncommon thing if you've ever worked with couples. And If they're willing to work, this program of WDEP can be very beneficial. So they explore what they want from their relationship. Each one wants to feel appreciated, supportive, and have a peaceful home. So then the counselor asks what each one's doing, and one complains and criticizes the other, while the other avoids the conversation entirely by going and gaming or just staying at work later than they need to. So then they evaluate, is this each of our behavior, is this avoiding and criticizing, all that, what we're respectfully doing, helping us build more supportive, kind, peaceful interactions and having a happy home? And the answer is no. So the planning is they establish an agreement to change their behavior. So instead of criticizing, one partner commits to clearly asking specifically for help. And I use the example, can you take the trash out before 7 p.m.? The other commits to putting down their phone for 20 minutes when they get home to connect with their spouse. And that alone sometimes can lead to tremendous changes. And each of these they can do immediately that day, starting that day. So, want, doing, evaluation, planning. Now, this is very beneficial for your clients, but it's also very beneficial for us. Wherever I am in my life, if I'm getting frustrated or worked up about something, I try to sit down and go, okay, what is it I really want? So if I've been stressed out with some kind of thing at work, maybe it's I'm in survival mode. I've let my thinking get away from me, and financial worries, So I need to be aware of that. Okay, if I'm doing that, how do I change that? What do I need to do to decrease my anxiety or whatever it is? So doing this with ourselves is really important. And I learned this from my great uncle Fred, who was a businessman. He said every New Year's Day he sits down and he does a version of this. He didn't call it WDEP, but he'd write down all the major things he did this previous year, and then said, is this getting me what I want? And then he'd change the things that weren't. And now, I think you need to do this more than once a year, but he was very successful in his business because it really kept him on focus. And always, is what you're doing aligned with your mission, whether it's in your personal life or your professional life. So I truly believe that if you take the time and do WDEP and be honest with yourself and commit to it, you will change your life. Now, granted, it's not as sexy as a lot of the new age, new thought kind of things, but, I'm about pragmatic ideas, and I think this is very beneficial if you take the time to do it. Well, thank you so much for joining me. If you hung out with me for the almost 30 minutes, hopefully you got something out of it, and you can apply this WDEP. If you are applying it, drop me a comment. Let me know how it's working for you and what changes you've begun to notice. So if you're interested in my work and further things I'm doing, my website's drpaulleslie.com. Please check out my online course on creating a magical session with your therapy, coaching, hypnosis clients. And I really appreciate your time and attention, and hopefully we'll see you on the next video. Have a great day.